Everyone to actually our third session for Future of Speed series, Motorsport X Technology series of events that we started actually back in May at Google Shibuya. There's a lot of people there. We had about 200 people at the event. Anybody was there actually for our first event back in May? Hands up. Yay, you too, because he's my co-host. Yeah, so this one is the third one. We are definitely going to have more later this year. So thank you everyone for coming. I know Yokohama is really far and it's really hot right now, but I'm really glad that you guys are here. Let me give you a little bit of the story, you guys. Well, I've been talking so much about Formula One. Let's do something for a change because 10 days ago, Formula E, I didn't go. Sadly, any of you went to see the night race? You went because you're the photographer. No, nobody aside from him, nobody went. Ah, too bad because it was the first Tokyo's first ever night race, and just 10 days ago. Well, Nissan Formula E team, right? We have to talk about them because do you guys know that their global headquarters is just like right here? We are about 15 minutes away by walk from Nissan global headquarters. So let's talk a little bit about them and talk also about Formula E because it happened just 10 days ago. And this story hopefully will make everything that comes after this makes like a whole lot more sense to you guys. So in Formula E, do you guys know that every car actually has identical chassis, identical battery, identical tires even? And the only thing a manufacturer is allowed to actually develop themselves is the rear powertrain. And everything else is fixed by regulation. And yet, last season, Nissan's driver, Oliver Rowland, won the entire world championship. His own teammate in the exact same car scored only a fraction of his points. So, same rules, same equipment, wildly different outcome though. The gap isn't happening on the car. It's happening in strategy and in the value built around the driver. So that's changing the grid in one story. Motorsport is shifting from a game decided by hardware to a game decided by everything wrapped around it. And that's exactly why my company, Checkmate AI, exists. A little bit more about myself. So my name is Maprang Suwanbupa. I'm the founder and CEO of Checkmate AI. So my background is in engineering, computer science, technology. I work on predictive maintenance algorithms at Airbus for a little bit, solution engineering at Immutable. So I had a short stint also in blockchain, cryptocurrency, Web3. And the time before that, I was at Accenture and Thomson Reuters as consultant and software engineer at Thomson Reuters. So Checkmate AI exists because regulated industries all sit on the same problem. Massive rulebooks and no intelligence layer built on top of them. Motorsport is where we're going to prove that first. We have two solutions, Gray Zone and Gambit. So for Gray Zone, it's a regulatory intelligence engine. It reads a rulebook the way a race engineer reads a rulebook, not looking for what's illegal, but for what's ambiguous. Every technical regulation has interpretive gray zones and tolerance stacks. This just means places where the rule doesn't say exactly what you can or cannot do. Teams, usually, they already know most of these exist, and they learn them by heart if they've worked for many seasons. But what they don't have right now is a fast and consistent and defensible way to act on those ambiguous founds. And that's where Gambit comes in. Gambit sits on top of Gray Zone as a decision orchestration layer. It takes what Gray Zone surfaces and turns it into a real-time strategic recommendation that a team can actually act on. So every interpretation has been validated against real Super GT regulations. That's the market we're trying to enter here in Japan. We've been working with a former SART engineer who spent years on GT500 pit walls. So this isn't a concept. It's already been checked against the real rulebook by someone who's lived inside it. So for those of you who are technical and are interested, we now have a demo available online on YouTube. You can scan the QR code and that's the link, or you can ask me later for it. However, this one has been built on the FIA Formula One technical regulations this year, 2026. So for the gray zone and gambit solutions, we currently in production. So gray zone and gambit, they actually solve only one half of what's changing in motorsport. It's the technical half. But racing isn't only getting smarter, it's getting bigger and also off the track. Media, entertainment, and capital are converging on motorsports at the same time. And that's rewriting what a sponsorship dollar is actually buying and what counts as a story worth telling. So for decades, right, a race team's value tracked one thing: how often you win. That's changing. Look at Formula One, for example. Drive to Survive didn't just cover the sport. It rebuilt Formula One's entire US audience from scratch and turned midfield drivers into global celebrities. That's the most direct example there is. Content didn't market the sport. Content actually became half the value of the sport. It's not isolated to motorsport either, and it's not only about content. Capital is repricing sports the same way. The NBA, for example, opened the door to private equity in 2021. The NFL followed in 2024. And in Formula E, specifically, one team's ownership group now includes a Hollywood producer whose own film appeared on the car's livery at Monaco this year. And this is not sponsorship. This is vertical integration. An investor using his own team to promote his own content and capital are now the same trade. So for sponsorship, that changes also what ROI means. So audience ownership and business access, not just impressions. For entertainment and production, a driver or a team is intellectual property before it's a competitor. And in Japan and across Asia Pacific, this hasn't been priced in yet. That's, I believe, so strongly is the opportunity. But that opportunity doesn't stop at the team level. It exists at the driver level too. A driver isn't just competing. They are a node in a network of media reach, personal brand, and corporate relationships already in motion. Traditional sponsorship only ever touched the logo on their car. It never touched the network behind them. And that's exactly the gap that Rev Up Racers was built to close. And in the next slide, you will see a recap of our party for our successful pilot program in Mexico back in 2024. Also, how it works. So for Rev Up Racers, this is how it works. A driver comes in, builds a profile, their racing career, their achievements, and critically, their existing network and corporate sponsorships. Sponsors don't just see a driver's statistics, they see also who that driver already knows. We then match sponsors to drivers based on where those networks actually overlap. And once connected, the driver introduces that sponsor into their existing partner relationships. That means new business, not just a logo on a car. Checkmate AI takes a commission on every business connection made. Our first driver, Leo Mancera, 18 years old, competing in Formula 4 in Mexico. He's also the son of Miguel Angel Mancera, former head of government of Mexico City, and later a senator. So through Rev Up Racers, he secured a sponsorship from Ford for his 2025 season. As you can see, the Mexico pilot didn't just prove corporate ROI. It proved something much bigger, that a driver's network can carry political relationships, not just commercial ones. That's a category of value traditional sponsorship has never touched at all. So tonight is the first time we are bringing Rev Up Racers to Japan. And the market here is exactly the wedge we have been describing, because Japan has one of the deepest motorsport ecosystems anywhere. We have Super GT, Super Formula, Super Taikyu, Drift Leagues, National Rally Championships, and more. This place is full of drivers with real talent, real audiences. So what's missing here in Japan isn't talent. It's a system that turns that talent into business value, the way it already happens in other sports here, such as baseball. Which brings me to why we are really here tonight. Our guest today, Nanami Tsukamoto, is what I would call a living proof of everything I just told you. Because she's not a driver who happens to also be a media personality. She's genuinely both at once. She competes across circuit racing, professional drifting, and rally at a level most drivers never reach in even one. And in parallel, she's a national television personality across Fuji TV, TBS, and TV Tokyo. The official ambassador for the Initial D Film trilogy, a playable character in a major racing video game, and a brand ambassador for companies like Panasonic and Davanti Tires. She also founded JKB, Japan's premier all-female karting team, because she saw firsthand how much of the traditional sponsorship model simply doesn't work for drivers like her. Everything we've talked about tonight, gray zones, decision support, driver networks as business assets, she is the reason it matters, not an abstraction. She's a person who's lived every part of this. So here's the shape of what we are building all together. Gray Zone sees the gray zones. Gambit decides what to do about them. Rev Up Racers monetizes the relationships a racing career generates in the first place. Three products, one underlying thesis. Motorsport is an information and relationship business, and the race itself is just the interface. We are early, building this in Japan as our first market beyond the pilot in Mexico. So if this thesis matches how you already think about sport, media, and capital, let's talk. Please come find me after. So everything I've just shared to you guys is the theory. What you're about to hear for the next hour is the lived version of it from someone who spent nearly 2 decades in male dominated garages, built her own team from nothing to make room for the next generation. And she's done it all while the cameras were rolling just as much as the stopwatch. So tonight we are incredibly honored to welcome someone the Japanese paddock first met nearly 20 years ago. Not as a driver with a budget, but as a young woman starting her own karting team because nobody was going to invite her in. She didn't wait for an invitation to motorsport. She went and found the door herself. Born in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and raised in Yamanashi, she grew up watching Ayrton Senna fly on TV. But her own story started late. She discovered racing after turning 20 at a local kart track and made the decision most people don't dare to make. She moved to Tokyo alone, just to chase it. Her motto ever since, it's never too late to start. Long before she had a racing budget, she started building one herself, working a string of part-time jobs to fund her racing. And because sponsorship requires visibility, she kept pitching herself for exposure, persistence that eventually earned her the modeling, television, and commercial work, not as a side career, but as the engine for the one she actually wanted, racing. In 2007, Japan's economy was sinking, motorsport was taking the hit directly, and there was not a single female racing driver in the country. So she built the pipeline herself. She ran an open recruitment, held auditions, selected the members, and trained them from zero as drivers. That team became Joshi Kart Bu, JKB, Japan's first all-female karting team. Many of Japan's active female drivers today came out of JKB. And that bridge paid off. In 2013, she made her four-wheel debut in the Gazoo Racing 86 BRZ series, the start of a professional career that now spans 15 years. In 2015, she became the first woman to contest a full season of the Porsche Carrera Cup Japan and won the team championship that same year. From there, she took on Germany's legendary Nürburgring Nordschleife in the VLM Endurance Championship, raced rally in the Toyota Gazoo Racing Rally Challenge, and built a parallel career in professional drifting. Formula Drift Japan and D1 Lights, formerly D1 Street Legal, and the D1 Ladies League, taking multiple podiums along the way, including a runner-up finish in the D1 Ladies League and third place at Drift Kingdom's final round at Nikko Circuit, before going international, D1 Thailand, Indonesia, and China. And in 2014, aiming for Formula Drift Pro, she moved to the United States and finished fourth overall in the Formula Drift Pro-Am series, Drift Colorado. Today, she carries a distinction no one else in Japan holds, a genuine triple threat, competing seriously in circuit racing, drifting, and rally. And right now, she's back in Japan on her biggest stage yet, a full season in the ENEOS Super Taikyu series, driving the number 822 and legal racing Honda Fit RS in the ST5F class, in an official collaboration with Bandai Namco's Drift Spirits, a campaign she built sponsor by sponsor. This season, she survived a night crash while running at the front of the Fuji 24 Hours, and 1 month later, she came back and she won at Sportsland Sugo. Through all of it, she never stopped building the door for others. It started with JKB in 2007, and today she produces a race ambassador team fronting her Super Taikyu team's PR, still creating ways into this sport for women who don't want to wait for someone else to say yes. She's also spent career bridging motorsport and mainstream Japan as promotion ambassador for the new Initial D, the movie, where the character Mako Sato was drawn from her photos. As the official ambassador of Bandai Namco's Drift Spirits, where she also has a hand in producing the game's collaboration projects across Fuji TV, TBS, and TV Tokyo, and as an official ambassador for Yamanashi Prefecture, where she grew up. So please join me now in welcoming to the stage Nanami Tsukamoto.
Thank you.
Thank you so
よろしくお願い
much.
します。
Thank you so much for coming, Nanami. I know you're very
It's my
busy.
pleasure.
Yeah, and actually, I learned earlier today that some people here at Tech Cup Yokohama, they were discussing about like the opportunity to like host something about racing here, and then your name came up some months ago, but it didn't happen. And I made it happen for you guys here today. So thank you everyone again for coming. Thank you Tech Hub Yokohama for sponsoring this venue, and of course, thank you Nanami-san for taking the time to come and tell us all about the behind the scene of the glamorous world of motorsport. Are you ready? Are you more comfortable telling all of us your experience in English, or you want to do it in Japanese?
In Japanese, please.
In Japanese. Okay, so because we actually have this translator, like the automatic translation available, live translation, but I have been told that we have to speak very slowly for the automatic translation to pick up what we say.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So many questions to ask you today. Yeah, I already told our audience that you were very bold, very daring. You decided that you wanted to be a racing driver, and then you moved to Tokyo just to chase this sport, even without like a budget, right? Without sponsors. And so funding yourself through like part-time jobs, and you pitch your way into modeling and TV and to build the exposure that sponsors required. I wonder, what did that in between period teach you that a driver who came up through a fully funded junior program never has to learn?
そうですね。まず、私は大人になってからレーシングドライバーを目指した人間ですね。で普通は結構みんな小学校の時からお家にお金があってそういうチャンスをいただけるんですけど、私の場合は全部自分でお金を作らないといけなかった。でそのためには、本当に工事現場の仕事もしたりですとか、飲食店でもアルバイトしたんですけど、それが、アルバイト費で週末にレースのトレーニングをしてカートの。で、それが毎週続いたので、少しずつ周りがチャンスをくれるようになりました。でも、結構モデルをやってて、だからレースやってるんでしょとか、タレントをやってて、だからレースができたんでしょっていう誤解があるかと思うんですけど、私は本当にもうアルバイトをしながら、そこから頑張った結果、みんなが見てくれたことを、認めてもらって、それを、チャンスに変えて、テレビやモデルの仕事、レースの仕事ができるようになりました。
She basically said she came to Tokyo and she started racing, but she was started racing as an adult, which is pretty late for the racing scene. So she started doing part-time jobs during the weekdays and tried and practiced racing in the weekends. And she kept doing this for like weeks and months. And then for doing this persistently, she started getting attention from all these other people who are in the racing scene. And then she was started being offered all these opportunities. So many people apparently believe that because she's a model, she's on the TV, they start saying, "Hey, you're on TV, you're a model, you have all these other opportunities. That's why you're racing." It's upside down. She persistently wanted to race so hard, she ended up being a model in town instead.
That's pretty funny, isn't it? Because to be honest with you, that's also the initial impression that I had of you. Because I know you not only as a racing driver, but also a TV personality. So immediately I made a logical connection that, oh, because you're very successful in the entertainment career, that you made a lot of money and now you want to pursue like a new hobby. But as I learned more about you, as I did more research for this interview, I realized that it's actually the opposite. And that was very, very, very impressive, very inspiring story. I hope that we get to have like more young girls in this room, for them to understand like how you came to be, and for them to also be inspired by your journey. Yeah. Yeah. So next question. Since we already know that you built JKB, the karting team, all-female karting team from zero, right? Open recruitment, auditions, training, members, everything from scratch. And you did it also at the time that Japan actually had no female racing drivers. So I wonder, what did you have at that stage that you would lose if you try to build the same thing today?
それはもちろん SNS、あとは AI がないですね。私が始めた時って、YouTube もあまり流行ってはいなかったですし、SNS がこれだけ重要にはなっていなかった。なので、まず新聞に載せるところから話題性を集めたんですね。それがもし今あって、今始めようと思ったら全く違うスタート、そして全く違う速さで彼女たちが育ったりとか話題性が作れるんじゃないかなと思ってます。
Back in the day, there were no SNS, there's no social media, no YouTube. YouTube wasn't gaining steam yet. So back in the day, she had to do all this stuff using old media, newspapers, newspapers basically. So today, if she were to create the same team with today's stuff, well, she would have to do everything differently because of the age of the social media.
Yeah, social media has changed the game, actually. It has changed the game for, I think, everyone in every profession, including like startup founders like myself. Yeah. We all have to be our own like content creator and social media influencers. Very interesting, very interesting. So the next question, I learned and I told our audience that you're going for Formula Drift campaign in the Formula Drift races in the United States, right? So right now I believe you're building the sponsor relationships to fund your career, right? Or maybe it's Super Thai Q as well. You building like a campaign sponsored by sponsor to fund your Super Thai Q as well. So I would like for you to actually, like all of us who are non-race car drivers here, I would like for you to walk us through what that actually looks like week to week. I wonder if the process of becoming a race car drivers, like raising funds from sponsors, is that something that's closer to like fundraising or more like sales or marketing or something else entirely?
まず、日本のスポンサーシップの仕組みとして、車とかレーシングスーツにロゴを貼ってお金をもらうってことはもう存在しないと私はだいぶ前から考えています。で、なのでビジネスとして考えてロゴを貼って露出はしますが、裏ではスポンサーとパートナーになってスポンサーが欲しい成功を一緒に作っていくことを心がけました。それが今私をサポートしてくれているいろんなスポンサーなんですね。で、会社によってはもっと露出をしたい、SNS をもっと盛り上げたいっていう会社と、あとは自分の商品を説明してほしいという会社、 またはビジネスマッチングをしてほしいという会社。それぞれみんなやっぱ目的が違うので、きちんと私が出向いてお話をして、それに対して相手が何を求めているのかを理解して、お金をいただいたお返しに仕事としてやっているっていうのが私のこうスポンサーシップの形です。
So what she just said is that in Japan, sponsorship is no longer about just showing the logo on your uniform. That is old school. It's not doesn't exist. These days, if you're talking about business, well, yeah, the logo is on the uniform, yes, but behind that scene, the driver or the team has to have to become a partnership with the sponsor. So they have to work together to create this success. So depending on the company, they might just want more exposure due to from SNS or from the social media or something. Maybe they want the driver to explain about what their products are. Maybe they just want her to do more networking with them. So because of that, she has to go to each sponsorship, talk to them, learn what they need, understand it, and work together.
Yeah, so I want to add a little bit to what she just said because it's also like something that I learned as well from drivers from other series. Because I have a business in this industry, right? So I've been hanging out a lot with drivers from like for example Formula 3, Formula 4. Yeah, it's true. It's not just Japanese motorsport. It's true now that logo placement is the thing of the past. Sponsors come in, they don't actually really want you to do anything like that because like the ROI isn't really high. They could actually just go to a platform like TikTok and whatnot to do something like that to put the logo of their brands out there, right? So what they actually need the drivers to do, for them, if they were to support them financially at all, is to for the drivers to be a little bit more of like business partners, business developers, aka like salespeople. It's very interesting. So the game has changed now. So that leads to my next question, right? So now that we know that the game of finding sponsors has changed, um, do you because you've been in the industry for 20 years, um, do you think you have also become better at playing this new game of finding sponsorship in the industry also, or you also have been struggling a bit with all these changes in the industry when it comes to finding sponsorship?
そうですね。私のやり方は、今まで私がここまで15年間活動できるまでに成功はしてきました。しかし、日本の経済状況は決してすごく安心できる状況ではないと理解しています。そこはニュースを見て、それを知っているのではなくて、私が営業に行った先々で、塚本さんとすごくやりたいんだけど、会社の状況的に厳しいという声が聞こえてきます。そこは大きな代理店を使って CM を打たなくても、私にはもう少し少ないバジェットでできる。それは理解してるけど、さらに会社の状況が少し今厳しいという声を多く聞きます。なので、慣れたとはいえ、ずっとこの営業のやり方でいいとは思っていない。なので、常に新しいプロジェクト、新しい武器を探して、いろんな方々と、いろんな業界の人とコミュニケーションをとってます。
Her methods in looking for sponsorships has succeeded. Yes, but the Japanese economy is not in a good state. And this is not because she's watching the news. Oh, no. She goes to these companies and tries to do sales about her own and tries to find sponsorship in this model that she has created. But all the companies are saying, yeah, it's a great idea, but we might not be able to make it. Yes, and things might get worse. So with that in mind, she thinks she is getting better at her own method that she has used, but she's still thinking that she has to constantly find new methods, new weapons, so to speak, to hone her game, basically.
Thank you so much for the gist and thank you so much for your answer. Who here in the audience are startup founders like myself? Hands up, startup founders. Woo! Well, you heard from Red Car Driver. They too are struggling. Do you see like a little bit of like similarities in all of this, in all the things that like people, sometimes people in other profession have to go through, the eerie similarity between like startup founders, race car drivers, right? We basically the two group of people who have vision, who have passion, who have projects. We want to pursue our projects. We don't have our own money. We would like to get sponsored by some big companies, some investors, and the economy is sinking and everything, and it's been really challenging for us all to actually be able to, present our project and convince them to actually sponsor us. So one of the reasons why I brought her here today also is because to give a little bit of insight into like the other, I would say like parallel universe to the world of building startup or the world of building anything like that requires a lot of passion and funding, right? That there's actually a lot of similarities. I know about this because, like I mentioned earlier, I've been hanging out with a lot of drivers, and then I started to see this similarity. So I would just like to say, hang in there, you guys. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nanami-san, for the answer. Akihiro-san, if you could say like just one line really quickly of the rant I just gave to the audience earlier, is I would just like to like support her career and tell her from the other side, the side of like trying us entrepreneurs trying to build businesses like technology businesses, that we have gone through more or less the same like journey, challenging journey in finding money for our own project, and tell her to just hang in there.
経験をしているという話でございまして、だからこそ、ゆえにこんな反対側の顔が大丈夫、頑張りましょう、一緒に頑張りましょうみたいな。
Thank you.
頑張りましょう. Okay, next question. A little bit about Japanese cultural context, Japanese business context, right? Everyone who's been here a long time, including the local people themselves, know that in the Japanese business world, trust is really important, right, you guys? Trust is super, super important. Same goes for the world of motorsport when you go around asking people to support your next race, right? So, I want to ask you, Nanami-san, about your idea when it comes to like maybe a kind of system, anything, some kind of solution that would help drivers build trust with potential sponsors. I wonder what would this kind of system actually need to do for it to actually be useful and not just nice sounding. Because as I understand, you have been racing in multiple categories, and now you want to take your challenge, take your personal ambition to the next level. You keep changing series. You go abroad to attempt the races in new categories that maybe your past sponsors may not have heard about before. So is there like a way, a system that could help other drivers, including yourself, so they don't have to like rebuild that trust from zero with their past sponsors, current sponsors, and future sponsors?
そうですね。アスリートがスポンサーを獲得するのって、ビジネスと一緒だと思ってます。で、ビジネスをしている皆さんにとっては、すごく簡単な話なんですけど、アスリートはそれを理解していない方が多いんですね。どうしても自分の競技、自分のレースに集中をするので、お金を使った後はもうとにかくそこに集中をしている。だから約束したお返しが十分ではない。なので、次の年にもう一回お金ちょうだいって言った時に、何のためにっていう結果になるんですね。なので、私はなるべくスポンサーしてくれた企業のファミリーになったっていう気持ちになって、企業の社員の一人になった気持ちになって、その企業が困っていること、解決しないといけないことを一生懸命1年間の契約の中で行います。それが認められたら、翌年のスポンサーがまた続くというのを、今一番長いスポンサーで10年間続けてくれているスポンサー、8年。結構複数年で続けてくれてるんですけど、そこがやっぱり認められて、信頼につながって、だから、ギブアンドテイクが続いてサポートしていただいていると思ってます。
Nanami-san sees athletes as the same as businesses in that they both need sponsorships or like people who sponsor them. However, athletes tend to not understand this issue. And what happens is they focus too much in their own sports. And then when the year comes and they need sponsorships again, they go to the sponsor and then they get said, okay, what's in it for me this time? So and this causes the issue that where the sponsorship sometimes leaves. So what Nanami-san did was to try to become, well, not one, or like become more like becoming a family, or maybe more like an employee for the sponsor, and trying to help the sponsor as much herself. And because of this stance, she had a sponsor that has lasted for a decade now. So building up this trust is very important.
Nanami-san, for your answer. Again, right? Another eerie similarity to all of us startup founders who trying to raise pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B, going from one round to the next. So same thing, you guys. So again, hang in there. Next question, Nanami-san. A little bit about female drivers in the sport now. So you founded JKB back in 2007, and today you produce. I would like to ask you how exactly to pronounce the name of this. Is it Tone or
Tone.
Okay, yeah. So today you produce Tone Angels, right, to help with your PR effort. So what's the one thing that you think a young woman coming into this sport still cannot get today that you had to go find some other ways?
そうですね。まず、モータースポーツに女性が入ることは非常に難しいんですね。フィジカル的に難しいというよりかは、社会的にちょっと難しい、センシティブな部分があるんです。女性が結婚して妊娠をする、子供ができると、1年間はそのシートに乗れない。なので、子供が少し手を離れて、1年後に帰ってきても、帰る場所がありません。それだけみんながシートを探している。女性だからシートを残しておくっていうのは難しい。で、私は、いろんなことを犠牲にして、ここまで、今日までレーシングドライバーをやってきたんですが、若い女の子たちに私と同じ犠牲を払いなさいとは言えないんですね。だけど、チームもこれだけお金を、集めて、車を作って走るときに妊娠したら困る。だから、投資はできないっていう気持ちがあります。そこは、本当に大きな声では言えない、とてもなんかこう、みんなが声を上げづらい事実なんですね。その上で、自分のことをいろいろと犠牲にして乗った中で男の人と一緒に戦うから、じゃあ体力に少し差がある。身長、体格に差がある。同じ男の人同士で、シートに乗ったらポジションが同じでいいのに、女の人が乗ってるからポジションを変えないといけない。そうするとポジションチェンジが他のチームより時間がかかる。そういったマイナス面を自分がどうプラスにするのかは自分で見つけ出して作るしかない。で、それをたくさん作ってきたので、若い女の子たちがそれを見てヒントにして自分のオリジナルのプラスにしてくれればいいんですけど、まあ非常に難しい業界だと思います。
What Nanami-san said is basically that motorsports is not a very easy world to get into for women. And this is not because of their physicality issues. There was a little bit of that. It was more just the social issues. One big one would being if a woman gets pregnant, she's going to have to be, leave the sport for a year, maybe more. And by the time she's ready to come back, there might not be a seat for her left because everybody wants a seat. So there's no reason for it to reserve a seat for this person. So because of that, Nanami-san had to sacrifice a lot of things, but she can't really say, you have to do the same sacrifice as young women. But at the same time, there's the issue about the teams. The teams, yeah, they poured everything into their car, and then the driver gets pregnant. Okay, that's going to be a problem. So they might want to say that you don't get pregnant, but they can't really say that out loud. So and going back to the physicality issue, there's also driving racing with men also means not just having a deficiencies say physical stamina, but also the issue of different body shapes means adjusting seats for when the driver has to change positions. It takes a lot more time between men, and that's all these minus issues exist. But Nanami-san is always trying to find something, a plus to it. So, and she's been trying to do that. So what she wants to ask to her young girls is to take a look at what she's gone through and find an inspiration for their own way to find the plus. But that's a hard thing to ask.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I have a lot to say about that, but I'll talk to you about that privately after this. So next question. You've been very successful in the sport despite all the hardships, all the hurdles that you overcame. you participated in so many series, right? For example, 2013 Gazoo, 2015 Porsche Carrera Cup, then VLN, then Formula Drift Pro-Am in the United States in 2024, and now Super Taikyu. That's the one you're gonna tackle next, right? So now I'm wondering, what would it have meant for your career if your sponsor had believed in you and not just in the series that you happen to be in?
そうですね。まず、いろんなキャリアを持ってますけど、私が頭の中に常にあるのは、私に来たチャンスは経験がなくても手を挙げてチャレンジをするということが最も自分の中で重要なことにしてます。で、そのキャリアがあって、また次のチャンスが入ってくるっていうことで15年間やってきました。で、スポンサーへのメリットだったりとか、自分のキャリアにとっての影響というのは、一つ皆さんに、ヒントとしてお伝えできるとしたら、自分がどんなレースに、どんな国で活動してても、常に発信と露出、メディアを大事にすること。それによって、スポンサーも私が何をしているのかを理解できますし、自分のスポンサーロゴ、あと、自分のスポンサーブランドネームが、いろんな国やいろんな人に届くっていうことを理解できるようになります。私はいろんな競技に参加して、その最も大きい影響っていうのは、いろんなジャンルの関係者とコネクションができたことなので、次に私のスポンサーが新しいコネクション、例えばレースからラリーに行きたいっていう場合は、もうすでにそのコネクションを持っているということが影響であって、今の私の強みだと思ってます。
So Nanami-san just said, so in her career, she always didn't care about if she had an experience in something or not. If she thought she had a chance, she took it. She took the challenge every time. And then because of that, because of how she did that, she always got a next chance and the next chance and the next chance. And doing this, gave her an interesting connection with all these sponsors. So to give a hint about how to make it a good thing for the sponsors, she said, regardless of what race is she at, regardless of where she is at, she always never stops giving it a message or exposing herself. So by doing so, she can make all the sponsors understand that their brands will be spread out as long as they support her. And as a side effect, she also has a various people connection with various people of all genres, and because of this, if she gets something esoteric as a request, she can actually answer that, and she believes that is very much of her strength. What Nanami-san just said is basically that, concerning AI, forget about the Formula One because they are probably already using it. Forget about Super GT because even if it's a top race in Japan, which means there are a lot of sponsors, they have the money, they might likely be using AI in some form. Or even if not, they're trying to use new technologies as much as possible, like doing TikTok. But if you go down the chain and go to more lower grade races, some of the races that Nanami-san has gone to, they're still using logger devices from 20 years ago to get data. And if you go lower, I think she's saying it might get worse. It's like concerning stuff like what the Formula One already been doing should be imported, but they can't. And if you start looking at the drifting scene, it's even worse. So like the Japanese drifting scene doing things that was done 30 years ago, America's a little bit better, but no new stuff yet. So what her understanding is that all these sponsors or the groups that are running these events, they don't have the money, they don't have the leadership, or maybe it's all the old men doing everything that hate new stuff. It could be anything, but she simply wants that sort of situation to be fixed.
Interesting, you guys. I know that a lot of you here today, you're here because you love motorsports. So there you have it. If you want to start your own company or build some kind of technology with AI to actually help solve problems within this industry, you know where to look. Yeah, so we have about like 6 minutes left. Question. This one first because he's so quick.
I'll give
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. It's really great to see females in motorsports. I wish there were more of it, obviously. A question for you. In Japan, you're mostly racing, I think what I saw here, it might be wrong, with females only, right? And in the US, sometimes it's mixed. Sometimes there's male and females racing together. Have you ever had that experience of racing against males? And then how was that experience like compared to just racing with only females? And yeah, do you want to do more of that or hope Japan does that in the future, yeah.
難しいですね。他のね、バレーボールといったスポーツと一緒で、男性のレース、女性のレースがあってもいいんじゃないかっていう意見は世界的にあります。それが成功してないのが一番の証拠です。日本は、女性だけのレースが一つだけあって、とても皆さん頑張っているんですね。主催者が頑張っているんです。で、主催者は若い女性たちにチャンスをあげるために頑張っている。彼女たちも頑張っている。でも、あくまでプロのスポーツじゃなくて、エンターテインメントの枠なんです。技術もまだでありますし、人数も少ないし、そもそも業界がそういう目で見てます。で、F1 ドライバーで女性がまだいないっていうのも一つのハードルですし、私が女の子にカートを教えて、女の子のカートクラスが大会で、できたときに、ちょっと難しいなと思ったのは、もうキャットファイトが始まるんです。まだこう冷静に、走れるっていう状況ではないのか、正確なのか、レースをやっている女性ってみんなやっぱり一番がいいので、自分が一番になるのか、相手も道連れにするのかっていう少しこう熱くなる部分があって、これがお客さんからお金をいただいて、観客を入れて、そのこう女性だけのレースで一つのカテゴリーとしてビジネスやろうと思ったら、まだまだ10年以上はかかるんじゃないかなって思います。
So the gist of what she just said is basically that there were ideas for women-only races, and just like like it could be like men-only races, but the fact they all kind of failed is the proof about how the situation is like. And then what she said is there is one race in Japan that's for all women, and it's done with good intentions, but nobody in the industry sees it as a professional race. They just see it as some sort of entertainment for the masses. And also there's the issue about there's no Formula One racer, female racer in yet. There's also a problem with that. And also when she opens kart races for girls, sometimes they sometimes devolve into catfights for some reason. So they can't silently accept the results of a race, and things goes bad sometimes. And she can't really tell if it's just why that's happening. It might be their characters. It might be because when women compete, they get really hot-headed. She can't really tell yet. But one thing is true that she can't really see a women-only race happening with all these sponsors and all these people watching and all that at the moment.
Next question.
Okay, do you think motorsport is evolving from being primarily a platform for selling cars to a platform for showcasing innovation and validating emerging technology such as autonomous driving, AI, battery technology, cloud computing, and so forth? And what do you think would be the greatest influence on the future of motorsport sponsorship in terms of new technology?
まず一つの例で言うと、レース全体の安全を高めるために新しい技術がルールとして全てのサーキットに最近入りました。それは、カメラで判断をして、早くその事故現場の状況を私たちに知らせるっていうシステムです。そこは F1 からルールが決まって私たちに届いているものなんですね。だからその、新しい技術をモータースポーツの中でビジネスをするんだったら、まず主催者が選ぶとか、安全面が、上がるっていうシステムだと大きなビジネスになりやすいんじゃないかなと思います。で、小さなビジネスですと、そうですね。一般道で、運転が苦手な人が、 えー手際よく事故を起こさず、人の邪魔にならずに移動するっていう部分だったりとか、ちょっと地方でおじいちゃんおばあちゃんが運転できないっていう時に、代わりに運転してくれた方が、自動運転があった方が上手、事故しない。そういう部分を普及したりとか、どうしても、レースだけだとすごく小さい世界になるので、私たちの生活に落ちた時に必要だと思われる技術だったら、すごくチャンスがあると思います。それはもう今、高齢化、あと地方のね、その人がどんどんいなくなる。で、運転が得意ではない危ない人がたくさんいる。で、特にインバウンドで海外から来た人って日本の交通ルールわからない状態で運転をしてるから、ちょっと危なかったりとか渋滞になったりしてる部分を技術で網羅できるとすごくいいんじゃないかなと思います。
Basically, what's happening on the motorsport scene is that there are new technologies being implemented, but its focus is on safety. For example, so there are systems that allow drivers to quickly notice a crash happening and they can know what's going on. But her opinion is that in the motorsport scene, technology is going to be focused either on the safety of the driver or if it's good for business. And in turning away from the motorsports scene, she's also thinking that technology should be benefit the basically all drivers, not just the races, because the racing is a small world. So because in the world there are people who are growing old, they are dangerous drivers, and some people might not know the local rules about how to drive. Technology should be used to help those people be safe.
Gentleman in the back.
Thank you so much. And I'm so surprised there's no one mentioned about the EV, because I think that's actually one of the big trend. And I think you had to participate in some EV drivings like a long time ago. Am I right? Like I forgot the name. It's maybe the beginning of the GVD, and I think that's do make a lot of impact. And also like FSD, like Tesla, because that's already operating in US. I think that's might taking a lot of changes. And second thing is, how do you think of the like international market? A lot of the I think Super GT wasn't that popular. My previous company had sponsored like F2, but that was 15 years ago, very long time ago, when it's still like like just pistol logo there. But many things like Initial D, Kashila Moji D, Kashila Moji D. Yeah, Kashila Moji D. So that used to be very popular, right, in Asia and the manga and the things. But I don't know. I just don't feel it's like very continuously nowadays. Maybe people, their attention shift. What do you think of this like a trend? Like maybe there can also be something done like promoting. It doesn't matter it's Japanese, but I think you personally is a great IP. I learned a lot. So that's can maybe also have some more opportunity in the global market.
Yeah, because EV is boring. いや、すごく素晴らしい技術です。でも、世界の車がすべて EV になったら、今度電気が足りなくなるっていう本末転倒が起きる。で、EV には EV の大事なところはありますけど、世界的にそれを広めるっていうのは別に必要ないんじゃないかなって思ってるのと、結構、本当にエビデンスがあるんですけど、人は車を五感で感じたときに、男性ホルモンが活性化したりとか、アドレナリンが出たりとか、感動するっていう、音と匂いの部分が、すごく人に伝わるんですね。そこ EV はないので、環境にいいよねってだけで皆さんが多分それにフォーカスしてるんですけど、私も EV のレースはたくさん出ました。で、1周目は素晴らしい。そこからどんどん落ちてくるのがストレスかなって思ってるので、バッテリーの問題が、解決すれば、電気の問題が解決すれば、そうなのかな。でも一番多分大きな理由っていうのは、EV is boring だから話に出ないと思います。で、次に日本のモータースポーツを世界でじゃあビジネスにしようと思ったら、正直勝てるものは少ないです。ヨーロッパはレースが文化、アメリカはエンターテインメントが文化。唯一日本が持っている武器っていうのは、賛成する人少ないと思うんですけど、ドリフトなんです。イニシャル D、ドリフト、峠。峠から始まった違法な走行だから、日本では未だに良くない、良くないって思われるんですけど、世界から見ると、すごく魅力的で日本的。だから私たちの国でもやりたいっていうことで、世界は伸びてます。日本だけずっと反対。 それはもともといけないことから始まっているっていう日本人のこう真面目なところがずっと続いてるっていう。なので、モータースポーツはドリフトっていうコンテンツを使って日本の車、JDM、日本車を世界に広めるっていうのはすごくまだマーケティングとして伸びるところですし、日本の中古車はすごく海外では高く売れてます。それでビジネスやってる人は言わないんです。自分のビジネスが小さくなるんで。だから日本の技術、日本の車でドリフトというコンテンツ、アニメ、IP、そういうものを使えば、すごく世界で勝負ができると思います。
So what you just said is, well, you know her verdict. EV is boring, but why is it boring? So she basically said EVs for two things. So one thing is that EV is a great technology. That's fine. Yeah, she agrees with that. But if everybody started using EVs, there's not going to be enough electricity to go around. She thinks that's one answer. And another answer is that she feels that driving affects the five senses of the body. So driving has a powerful impact on our own feelings, on our own hormones, all those things. But she feels that EVs don't really deliver the same experience as old school cars. So that's another issue. And also when she has been to EV races, a lot of races, but she feels that while the first lap is always fine, it just goes downhill from there and it gets her stressed out more and more while she's driving. And that's what she said about EV and goes back to EV is boring. About the international market for like Japanese race motorsports, she thinks there's very little that the Japanese motorsports can offer except for drifting. Drifting is like a very big thing and has potential. But one problem is that in Japan, drifting started as illegal racing, and that image hasn't been like cleaned out in Japan at all. So it's the international market that's focused on drifting, while in the Japanese market, drifting is like at the moment. So if there's a niche that Japanese motorsports can fight into the international market, it will be promoting more drifting. But people who are already doing that don't want to say that out loud because it'll be a smaller piece of the pie.
You've done a lot of different driving, so I have actually two questions. First question is, which domain do you like the best? Do you like drifting the best? Do you like the other types of driving better, and why? Or yeah, and why? And then my next question is your favorite car. What is your favorite car to drive in like racing, and then also a daily driver, like a daily driver car
You mean that that's for me or for business?
for you?
For me. Every race is fun. I like it. I love. 難しいね。私は運転が好き。運転が本当に好きなんです。だから好きな車はない。そうなんです。みんな好きな車なんですかって聞いてくれますけど、好きな車ないんですね。で、私に与えられたシート、与えられたマシンがベストな車。もうその車をどうやって上手に運転をしようか。それがすごく楽しい。本当は車そんなに詳しくないです。名前はわかりますよ。でもメカニックもわからない。だけど私はどんな車でもどんなカテゴリーでも上手に運転できるようになりたい。だから、日本も海外もラリーもドリフトもレースもやる。はい。
So her answer was basically short. She doesn't have a favorite car race because she loves driving. She loves driving. And this is important because she doesn't care what car she's driving. She just wants to drive any and all cars she drives perfectly.
日本語でも話せるなんですけど、一応なんていうか英語でいいんですか。日本語にしようか。とりあえず、ななみさんはもうあれでブラジルに生まれたことが随分承知していますなんですけれども、で、生まれてから、もしかしたらブラジルっていうのバックグラウンドがどうしてもこうやって自分のキャリアでこうやって成功した、役に立ったかどうかっていうことが知りたいなんですけれども、なんて昔のブラジルのバックグラウンドが。
私はブラジルで生まれて、で、もう子供の頃から日本にいるんですね。なので、ブラジルの影響は全くないです。言葉はわかるし、言葉がわかるぐらいですね。で、私のお家は、親は免許を持ってない、車もない。その状態で、私はレースをスタートしたので、影響はないんですけど、でも、アイルトン・セナは、すごく誇りに思います。はい。
ありがとうございます。すみません。
the question was, does being born in Brazil or having such a background from being connected with Brazil had an effect in her success? Her answer was she went to Japan almost immediately in her life, so there's not really much effect to her success beyond that being able to speak the language. And even her parents didn't have actual driving licenses, so her driving start was basically zero. But if there's one thing she wanted to say, Ayrton Senna, he was so awesome.
Thank you. I think globally it's becoming more and more common for people to go from sim racing into real world racing. Is this something that's happening in Japan as well? And do you think that's actually an opportunity for female drivers potentially?
女性、男性は特に関係ないと思います。ですが、シミュレーターが出てきたことによって、もう子供がもうサーキットのトレーニングができる。実際に14歳、15歳でもう、レースをしてる。大会に出ている子供も出てきました。そこはすごく大きな、業界の進歩ですし、デビューを少ないお金でデビューができるっていうプラス要素ですね。ただ気をつけなきゃいけないのは、シミュレーターにも癖があるので、その癖のまま、ただシンプルにサーキットの本番の車に乗るっていうのは私は気をつけるようにしてます。
So there's no difference between men and women concerning sim racing, but in general, she says that the sim racing the simulators were very good for getting kids into the scene, and also there are kids who are doing pretty well at tournaments, at competitions due to their experience in sim racing. And it also allows new racers to get in without a large amount of money. However, she adds the warning that all these simulators have their little quirks, and getting into real racing before ironing out the quirks that the racer might have gotten from the simulators is ill-advised.
Boa tarde, obrigado por hoje. Thank you very much for your great speech. So I'm actually doing the tour guide and also the interpreter in Tokyo. And sometimes like my guests from Spain or other countries ask me to take them to the Daikokufuto in near the Yokohama. And I always say that place is actually illegal. But you have just like mentioned that Japanese culture, like we started like from the illegal drift. And sometimes like I think like we can actually make Daikokufuto as one of the touristic area. Right now it's like illegal, but every day so many cars are gathering for their hobbies. So my question is, do you think like we can like make Daikokufuto like as like touristic spot, cooperating with the government, and like now it's illegal, but I'm like visualizing like in the future like the tourist can freely visit Daikokufuto and enjoying like seeing the drift. So my question is like whether like we can like do something to make Daikokufuto as one of the famous touristic spot in Yokohama or in Japan.
日本の、大黒ふ頭すごく問題になってますが、それは日本の責任だと思います。すごくそれを観光スポットに怖がらずにすれば、そこは一つのお金を生む場所になるのに、不良が集まったら困る。なんか悪い車が集まったら困る。一般の人が、クレームしたら困るだけでそれをやらない。だけど海外からわざわざ大黒ふ頭を見たくてわざわざそこに集まる人がいる限りそこの問題はなくならない。だったらそれを味方にしてちゃんとルールを決めてちゃんとお金を取ったら違法なこともなくなるしお金も例えば横浜だったり神奈川に落ちてくる。それはいろんな日本の各地であります。有名な峠、いろんなスポットがあって、ふ頭ってドリフトで使われてたんですけど昔そういった場所が全部イリーガルなのでとにかく、やる人は逃げるでやらないようにおまわりさんが見張るだけで終わらしてもうお金だけ使ってる状態をもっと整理すればいいのにそこにいち早く気づいてるのが実は群馬県イニシャル D が始まった峠問題になるところを逆にじゃあ観光のスポットにして、自分の県に人にたくさん来てもらおうっていう頭を変えたのが群馬県。それがもっともっとそれが成功例になって大黒ふ頭だったりとかいろんなところが同じことをしてくれたらすごくいいと思います。
Problem with Daikokufuto is basically Japan's fault. Period. And the point she was making that if people are going to go there and want to see it as a tourist location anyway, the various governments should just take the lead and make it into a proper tourist spot. But they don't do it because they're worried about all these little well, not little, but all these different things that, if we make it a tourist spot, there might gonna be a lot of illegal people going more. Like, but that's the problem. That should not be a problem. They should just like keep it under control. It should be the government should take the lead into making it into proper tourist location because those people want to go there anyway. Just not ignoring it does not solve the problem. So and she gave one example that probably did the shift from making an illegal spot into a tourist spot was Gunma.
はじめまして、どうぞよろしくお願いします。はい、クレディと申します。
日本語でよかったです。
よかったね。じゃあ、これから英語で。So I grew up in racing. So my parents put on all the major auto races in the West Coast of the United States. I grew up around the best women race car drivers in the world. So you probably heard of Janet Guthrie, Shirley Muldowney, Lynn St. James. They were way ahead of their time. My father put them into racing. So I'm very, very happy to sit here tonight to hear you talk about racing and your experience. And I think it's great for all of us to hear about it. The question is, now that you're building out a race team, kart racing, I grew up racing karts and all the way to Formula Ford. So I totally love that your answer about what car is your favorite. With the onslaught of what's going on in the world, why should people care about racing? Because the sponsors and the companies and everyone that's involved in it, but why should we care about racing? Why is it so important?
ボケないからです。でも、レースをすることによって、目の力もすごく上がります。判断の力もすごく上がります。で、体も、危ないことがあったときに勝手にパッて動きます。そうすると、事故が減ります。そこは、お金を使ってたくさんレースしてくださいとは言いませんが、免許を取る教習所で一回レースをやってくださいって、レースに参加をさせるっていうのを、ぜひ私は組み込んでもらったらいいなって思います。私がタクシーに乗ると、危ないとき、3秒早く気づいてる。タクシーはもうぶつかる寸前で、あってなってる。そこはレースやしてる人と、プロのタクシーのドライバーの違い。レースやってるときは、もういろんなセンサーたくさん作ります。普通の運転も遠くから見て、あの人危ないから離れとこうとか、いろんなことに気づきます。だから、普通の人もレーサーになってくださいじゃなくて、レースに一回出てください。そこから免許を上げますっていうシステムにしてほしい。でも、警察官はサーキットでトレーニングしてますからね、みんな。サーキットで、やっぱり、パトカーが、取り締まる、追いかける、追い抜く、止める、速く走る。みんなトレーニングしてます。いろんなサーキットで見てるので、彼らがやってることは、やっぱり意味ありますよね。だから皆さんも、ぜひそれは技術を入れてほしい。自分の安全のために、あと家族とかの安全のために。
So jokes aside, she believes that racing is important because it enhances the senses. So you get better eyesight, you have better reflexes. You can react to a situation much faster than if you didn't race. So she won't say that everybody should race. No, that's a little ridiculous. But she says that if a person wants to get a driver's license, they have to experience a race at least once to know how fast the car moves and all that stuff. So because she actually rode a taxi one day and then the taxi almost crashed had an accident. She reacted 3 seconds faster than the actual taxi driver reacted to it. So she actually feels this as an actual thing. And she even adds that she sees a lot of cops practicing at circuits. So because cops had to actually do car chases, so they practice on the racing circuits. And that gives a hint that driving schools probably should also give normal drivers at least learn how what race goes and when you're in the driver's seat, and then give the licenses.
I would just like to add a little bit from an entrepreneur perspective for why of all industries in the world, I decided to do something in motorsport that gets me a lot of very challenging questions from potential investors of how niche the industry is, how small the TAM is, how difficult it is to get into. I would like to be very honest with all of you here that actually I'm not that much of a motorsport fan, if at all. I because I grew up in Southeast Asia, originally from Thailand. it's not Formula One that's popular, actually. It's MotoGP. We love auto wheelies. If you go to countries like Thailand and Vietnam, you see a lot of motorcycles out there. So for one thing, I agree with what Nanami-san just said, that if there's like some kind of curriculum when anyone wants to get the driver license, if they can get to experience like racing just once, maybe that would help a lot with the like safetyness around like driving in the streets, right? But for me, from my perspective as the technology person and an engineer who has already been working in multiple industries, and with the like recent advancement of AI, I personally don't quite want AI to be widely applied in that many areas of human life. However, I do actually see the benefits of this technology and I would like to be a part of it. So I decided instead to apply the technology in an environment where it's like a prototyping playground for other more advanced technologies in other innovative industries, such as aerospace. That's actually the real reason why, of all industry, I decided to get into motorsport. Think of it as like a pathway, like a safer pathway to apply this very new, exciting, and potentially dangerous technology like AI in an industry that is actually built to be a playground, technology playground, prototyping playground for other more advanced technologies in other industries that is still quite far away from like daily applications, like other type of use cases that would potentially harmfully affect humans' life more. So that's my take as an entrepreneur for why people should care about racing. Yeah. Okay. So 4 more minutes, maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Hands up.
私は前職、東京ヴェルディっていうサッカーチームで働いていて、今はスポーツチームをお客様にマーケティング支援をしたり、あとは場合によってはスポーツに興味を持っている企業さんをスポーツチームにご紹介して、スポンサーシップを締結するっていうビジネスをやってる会社で勤めてます。で、ベルディで勤めてた時って J2 でそれこそ平均2000、3000みたいなクラブでなかなかスポンサーが見つからずで大変で、日本のプロスポーツって野球は別格として、その他のスポーツってなかなかお金集め、簡単に言うとお金集め、すごく難しい課題で、皆さん同じようなお悩みを受けることが非常に多いです。その中で、ななみさん今日のキーワードの中で、スポンサーシップの中で企業のファミリーになるってキーワードがあったかと思うんですけれども、僕らも一緒にご提案するときってファミリーになる気持ちで課題を特定して、アズイルトゥービー整理して、ギャップを特定して、ソリューションを提案するっていうのは当然やるんですけど、それが3年、4年、5年続くかっていうとなかなか難しくなるなっていうのが個人的に思っていて、先ほどでも8年、10年続いているスポンサーがあるってお話をお聞かせいただいた中で、続けるコツなのか、ファミリーっていうのもどういう定義でファミリーとして向き合ってこられて、ななみさんだからできるソリューション提供されてるとは思うんですけれども、それにどう向き合い続けてられるのかっていうのをちょっと聞いてみたいなと思います。
そうですね。まずサッカーと規模が違うので、難しさはすごくたくさん、倍も10倍もあると思います。私が企業のファミリーになるときは、本当にその企業が、潰れたらクビになっちゃう困るっていう気持ちで、社長が何を考えてて、でも社員は何を考えてて、で、私はこの真ん中の、じゃあ一人の部長課長ぐらいの人だから、上も下も理解して、それ集めて、解決をする。そういう目線で見てますし、話をなるべく企業の問題点とブランド商品の良さをすごく話をたくさん聞いて理解して、何か質問されたらその企業の人のように答えられる、営業できるようにしてます。ただそれをサッカー選手にやらせるの難しいですよね。無理ですよね。ドライバーも無理なんですよ。なので、そこは私がやっていることですし、今度サッカーとかのチームになったら、マネージャーとかスポンサーを持ってきた人が私の役割をやって、だけどサッカー選手たちに上手に伝えないといけない。アスリートってわがままなんです。ドライバーもっとわがままなんです。あなたお金もらってるから やらないとダメでしょって言っても、やりたくないのはやりたくないんですよ。だからそこを上手に子供にこれやったら楽しいよとか、上手になんか説明してやってもらうしかない。だってファンはここにいるから、アスリートにいるんで、そこは私全部一人でやってるから、私の方が楽です。
For those who don't understand Japanese, what happened right now is this person is actually working in a company that does a similar thing about sponsorships. And so he connects soccer. He works for soccer teams, so he connects soccer teams with sponsorships. So he was actually convinced that Nami-san was doing a pretty great job, but he wanted to ask the question: how does she keep on doing this thing for like 10 years for one company? He said, it's rare for a sponsorship deal to go beyond 4 years. She said for 10. What's the secret? And her answer was, well, yeah, it's like when she says she becomes a family, she becomes part of the company that's being a sponsor. Her idea is to understand the company to the point that she could end up as a salesperson for the company. So she knows what's going on with the CEO. She knows what's going on with all these employees. She tries to learn as much as possible. She learns about the branding. She learns about what the company stands for. And so basically be the company. But that is not something you ask for athletes to do. So she's her own manager and an athlete at the same time, so she can manage it easier. But she says you can't apply the same model to a soccer team because you got like 12 different, you got all these soccer athletes. You don't want to do that. So the role that Nanami-san plays is something that has to go to the team manager or maybe the person who brought the sponsorship, and then leak that image to the athletes so they understand what to say, because the fans are looking at the athletes, not the manager.
So time's up. Time's up. Now it's time for networking. But before we go to the other room, I would like to say again a very heartfelt thank you for everyone here today. Nanami-san, thank you so much for taking the time to come here. Thank you so much. Akihiro as well. Akihiro-san, very professional. It must have been very exhausting for you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. And yeah, thank you everyone for being here.